what's going on, everybody? This is Michael Levan. Thank you so much for joining me today. And in this video, we are going to do something incredibly fun. We are going to look through severities, severity scores, and see what's going to pwn our environments. No, actually, it's not all that fun. However, it is very much needed. So in this Kubernetes security series, we're doing a mixture of just hands-on and theoretical stuff. Now, funny enough, I would say something like severity scores are kind of a little bit of both, because we need to understand these severity scores before we can actually secure our Kubernetes environment. And funny enough, with these severity scores, it's all going to depend on your environment. So what is a serious security issue for you may not be a serious security issue for another person. So if we're just thinking about healthcare, for example, having proper PHI and HIPAA compliance and maybe even high trust certification, that's going to be a big deal to a healthcare environment. If you're not working in a healthcare environment, that's not going to be a big deal for you. So really, funny enough, security is really all about mitigating as much risk as possible, not just securing everything and making sure nothing ever happens, because that's unrealistic. So the Kubernetes CVE scores and the National Vulnerability Database and CIS benchmarks, these are all really great places to start. So for example, and I'm just going to show you a few different ways to kind of view this and see what this ultimately looks like. So I'm on the official Kubernetes documentations right now. And if I scroll down, for example, there are, we can see a few different issues. So there's one CVE 2022. They're all dated based on year. And we can see this one: aggregated API server can cause clients to be redirected. Another one: run as non-root logic bypass for Windows containers. That sounds interesting, I think. So let me just go ahead and click on that one. And by the way, before we click on it, there's the CVE ID, and then there's the GitHub issue URL. So for example, if we click on the CVE, it's actually going to bring us to the GitHub link anyways. And I believe if we do the same thing here, yeah, it's bringing us to the same location. All right, don't know why there's two links for that, but that's all right. We learned a new thing today. So if we look, we can actually see that this issue has been closed. And I'm not 100% sure. No, it looks like it's something different. In Kubernetes version, I believe 1.27, if I'm not mistaken, you can look at the release notes, using a security context to do things like running Windows containers in non-root. That's now available, and that wasn't available before, but I think this is something a little bit different. Yeah. So Kubernetes audit logs may indicate if the username was misspelled to bypass the restriction placed on which user is a pod allowed to run as. And this is a separate issue than what I was thinking about, but point being, we can see this specific issue and what it actually means. So again, if you're running Windows containers, this may be a big deal. If you're not running Windows containers, you probably don't care. All right. So if we look here, now this is another view that we can see. I personally like this view a little bit better because I feel that it gives you a little bit more information. And not only that, but it does give you the severity score. So for example, if we take a look here, this one scored at a 5.5. A security issue was discovered in Kubernetes where a user may be able to create a container with subpath volume mounts to access files and directories outside of the volume, including on the host file system. Yeah, that sounds like a big deal. So essentially what that means is a user can go ahead and create a container with a subpath, like you would point to a volume, for example, but instead pointing to the host file system. That's a big security issue in my opinion, because an attacker could go in and literally just have access to everything and anything within the container, which is ephemeral, so they can delete it, so there's almost no detection around this, to look at what's happening inside of the host file system. So again, that's a pretty big deal, but I do like this view because I like seeing the severity scores here. So if we go ahead and if we maybe click on this, for example, it's going to give us way more information. So if we go ahead and if we click on that, we can see information again regarding what we just read. We can see the CVSS scores and vulnerability types. So we can see the scoring here based on, how bad this is versus how okay it is. And then we can see some different types for like access complexity, availability, authentication, etc. We can see the products that it's affected by, and funny enough, this is not telling us the Kubernetes version, which is unfortunate. I would assume that that would be here, but it looks like that it is not. All right, well, we kind of just have to assume in that case then that it's just all Kubernetes versions, which maybe that's actually what this asterisk means here. Maybe it just means all Kubernetes versions. All right, so that's another view. Now, another view is the National Vulnerability Database from NIST. So if we scroll down here, and you can see that, it's already searching Kubernetes, but we can go ahead and we can refine search, and you could put in certain criteria here, and you can also put in the keyword search. So if we go ahead and if we search that again, same thing, that's the keyword search. And we can click on one of these, for example, around KubeVirt is a virtual machine managed add-on in version 0.59.0 and prior. If a malicious user has taken over a Kubernetes node where the virt handler, the daemon, is running, the virt handler service account can be used to modify all node specs. That doesn't sound great. All right, so let's go ahead and click on that one. And again, NIST will give us a detailed analysis here. Looks like this vulnerability is currently waiting analysis, but it will give us the description and it will tell us the severity score, which, yeah, this definitely seems like a high one. And it'll tell us some solutions that we can utilize if they are available to fix this. So we pretty much just looked at all the severity scores, all different CIS benchmarks in terms of, or CVE benchmarks, CIS benchmarks, in terms of what we should be thinking about. Now, on the flip side, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to showcase Kubescape here by Armo, which is definitely one of my favorite tools and platforms to use for cluster scanning, application scanning, manifest scanning, etc. Even this RBAC visualizer is pretty cool. Now, if you use a tool like this, and there are plenty of other tools available, this version is free. You can see I'm on the free plan. This actually gives us the ID in terms of the severity, or the CVE rather, from CIS benchmarks. These are being pulled directly from CIS benchmarks. It's going to give us the description, it's going to give us the severity, and what's cool is it's going to give us the remediation step. So if you want to look at what's happening on your environment directly for your CVEs, for your CIS benchmarks, for anything wrong from a security perspective, if you use a tool like this, it's going to tell you exactly what the issue is, and it's going to tell you how to fix it. So essentially, if you want to fix the issue and just see what's directly related to your environment, you can use a tool like this. If you need to, for whatever reason, see all of the severities in all of Kubernetes in general, maybe you're a security researcher, maybe you're pulling up a report from management to state what the current vulnerabilities are, you can use something like CVE details or the National Vulnerability Database page.